Go Island is brought to you by German Auto Import Network.
This industrial area in downtown Nanaimo behind Port Place Center is Nanaimo's last urban frontier. What's in store for the future here? That's up for discussion today at the South Downtown Nanaimo Waterfront Open House. On today's show, a big milestone for the Canadian Power Squadron, contemporary First Nations art, and looking out for the whales. That and more in the next 30 minutes. You are watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. There are 5 stakeholders plus one more very important one, and that is you. What we're talking about is the future of what is known as the Welcox Property here in downtown Nanaimo, Nanaimo's last urban frontier. There's lots of ideas, lots of inspiration. We're going to look at some of that later on this edition of Go Island. But first, the Canadian Power Squadron is celebrating a huge milestone across the country. Ladysmith is no exception. Here's Annette Lucas. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. Life around the water, it's unavoidable and a big part of the reason so many of us love to call Vancouver Island home. Nanaimo is no exception to waterfront activity, and there's a lot of it taking place on what's known as the Welcox Property here in South Downtown. There's a committee that has been struck, the South Downtown Waterfront Initiative Committee. Dave Whitty is the chair. We've alluded to the fact that there are 5 major stakeholders when it comes to the use of the land here. Who are they?
Well, the major stakeholders, certainly the city, because it's now acquired the Welcox property. We have C-SPAN, we have Nanaimo Port Authority, we have CP Rail, and we have the foundation, the foundation.
Island Corridor Foundation.
Thank you, Island Corridor Foundation, who have an interest in getting rail back online.
Now, the whole property consists of about 100 acres. There's 50 that are available for development. The city purchased 24. Have I got that right?
Just over 24 acres, yep.
Okay.
Right.
Now, I don't imagine it's an easy task to get all of the stakeholders together to form a collective vision for the future, and we're talking 20 to 30 years down the road.
Actually, even further than that, 30 to 40, yeah.
So you need a vision that's going to last that long, that's going to be the right vision.
Right.
What are the challenges in that? There's only a few, I'm sure.
Well, I think there are a number of challenges, but the reality is we have to look to the future, and we have to try and shape and frame the future. So we've had some significant input today. We've had several hundred people through giving their ideas. We're going to have some more opportunity for that. We're going to go into a design charrette to try and scope out that vision. But I think the way we see this coming forward is establishing what we call guiding principles. So whatever land use decisions are made over the next 30 to 40 years, they're framed by common principles. So they become the sieve by which decisions are made. So decisions are floated through those principles, does it fit or not? And hopefully through that, and plus a broad vision of what are the possibilities for broader land use category, what are the areas for principal access, those will end up allowing for decisions, I think, and the committee thinks, will permit some solid sense of what's going to happen in the future.
And when will things start changing here? And when will things start happening, whatever those things are?
They already have started. C-SPAN's announced that it's looking at perhaps different modes of moving its goods. The city's acquired this property. Those are all things that have already happened. So, well, as a committee, what we're trying to do is encourage a conversation in Nanaimo about what some of the possibilities might be for this area and the broader study area as well. And then hopefully the landowners, other than the city as well, have a sense of perhaps what are the possibilities and where there will be support and buy-in from the Nanaimo itself.
So it's getting everybody on the same page. And I heard there's only, 3 acres that aren't incumbent or don't have other uses and rights of way and such things on it? That can't be easy either.
It's a complicated site. It's got multiple layers. The reality is, though, that urban environments are complicated and they have multiple layers. So it's whether it's here or some other part of the city. Mm-hmm. It's just that we see those layers here differently, and so we need to approach this differently.
Actually, huge opportunity. When I first moved to Nanaimo in 1998, I looked at this property and I kind of went, really? This is like, this is the harbor. And I mean, we have our beautiful harbor over there, but there's all of this waterfront, and all I see are pallets and shipping containers and cranes and things. So it is an exciting opportunity to move forward with this area of South Downtown. Another exciting opportunity is taking place at the Victoria Art Gallery. Sucheta Singh is looking into how First Nations artists are presenting a contemporary look at their work. There is still time for you to catch that exhibit at the Victoria Art Gallery, and if you missed the Harbor Fair that took place on October the 5th here at the Welcox Property in Nanaimo, there is still lots of time for you to put your input forward. The best place to do that, South Downtown Waterfront.ca. I'm peeking at the website on the back of the flyers here. And what is your vision for Nanaimo's last urban frontier? The stakeholders want your input. We'll be back with more on this edition of Go Island after a short break. Still to come today on Go Island, conscientious whale watching and Corey Johnson on the road to recovery. That and more still to come today on Go. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. We're in the middle of Harbor Fair. It's an open house, so to speak, to gather input from the public as to what you want to see in the South Downtown Harbor waterfront here behind Port Place Center. Lots of challenges, not only in the land zoning and the uses that are regulated on it, but what the public has as far as ideas to take place here. For example, my waterfront includes an ice rink, and then right next to it, someone else's waterfront includes no sports. So yeah, just a few challenges coming up to look ahead at a long-term vision for this part of downtown. And we're going to talk to Fred Pache later on this edition of Go Island about some other ideas that have been coming forward. But first, seeing an orca whale is a stunning sight, but there are rules as to how close you can get. Jen Moranitz now introduces us to a program that looks after the whales. Not sure if any whales have been sighted off the South Downtown Nanaimo waterfront here. Perhaps, perhaps not, and perhaps with development here we'll have a better opportunity to actually see them. What that development is going to look like is the point of discussion right now. Fred Pache is on the South Waterfront Downtown Initiative Committee, also sits on City Council, of course. What is the area that we're talking about here?
Okay, we have what we would refer to as a study area, that is the red dotted line that you see here. The first thing that you have to remember is that a very big part of that is the property of the Port Authority of Nanaimo. That's federal property, and that is not part of the development process that we are going through, or that we are trying to get a concept on, even though thankfully they're very much aware of the connectivity between the Welcox land, which is where the blue pen goes from here to here, roughly here. The rest is still owned by CP Rail. So the Port Authority is very much part of coming up with the concept, and the important part of that is, like with Southern Rail and with the Island Corridor Foundation, that we are aware of the aspirations of all the stakeholders that are involved, and of course C-SPAN is one of them as well.
What are some of the ideas that people have been putting forward, just sort of talking and throwing out casually here today?
Well, the intent of that is, I really want people to think of this area as the last urban frontier of Nanaimo, and it is long-term, other than perhaps the movement of the transit exchange from Prado Street to here to be the beginning of what, in my mind, should be a transportation hub of some sort that will involve other things. The long term is just what it says, long term.
So are we talking residential?
Well, I can tell you what I've heard today. I have had people saying they want a multiplex. I have heard people saying they want just park. I've heard people who say they want residential. Some say mixed residential commercial. I have had people talking about where the waterfront path would go if we ever get that far. So it is a concept that we have to sort out. But the important part of it today is that we have engaged the public in a way that in the 5 years that I've been on council I haven't seen before.
Okay.
We've had over 300 people in a very short period of time to give their ideas. And so you have to remember that the task of the committee is to come up with the concept, with the long-term vision, which is non-binding. All we can do as a committee is to present to council at some point at the end of this year or the beginning of next year the ideas that the people of Nanaimo have expressed.
And I think there's some responsibility on the public. Now is the time to come forward, go to the website and put your input forward instead of waiting for a decision and a concept to be approved and then forward motion starts happening and then start complaining. No. Get on board now, right?
Correct. But you have to remember that whatever the committee comes up with as a concept is non-binding, as opposed to, say, the process of a neighborhood plan, which eventually becomes part of the official community plan. That's the law of the land. It's a bylaw. So there's a bit of a difference there. And different councils in the future may have different ideas. We don't know that. But with this amount of public input, I think we're on the right track to at least have a good feeling of what the people of this city want at this particular very important piece, but very challenging piece of land.
Absolutely challenging. And we did talk a bit about that earlier on this edition of Go Island. Now's the time. Let's put your visions, your ideas forward. Everybody can get on the same page so that when it comes time for another council to step in, there's no way they can change it or make any improvements. It's all up for discussion at the moment. We'll be back with more on Go Island after a short break. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. The Nanaimo River Estuary, just one more group with a vested interest in what happens here at the South Downtown Nanaimo Waterfront Property. The future for this site is up for discussion. We're going to throw things over now to Jocelyn Matwee. We're taking another look at a story that first aired back in April. Corey Johnson required surgery to remove a tumor. We're going to have a look again at that story, as I mentioned, and we'll give you an update after the fact. While Corey is not driving yet, he is making progress. He's able to use a walker and is working with a personal trainer. There are some fundraisers in the early stages of planning right now. It's all taking place through Woodgrove Pines. They'd like to purchase some specialized equipment to help him on his road to recovery. If you'd like to find out how you can get in on the ground level, you can contact Shifton Sigmund. Her phone number 250-741-4615. Very early stages of fundraising to help get Corey back on his feet and behind the wheel and out there 4x4ing that he loves to do so much. It was a true pleasure speaking with his wife on the telephone. That brings us to the end of this edition of Go Island. Thank you so much for watching. Don't miss out on your opportunity to make your opinions heard and share your thoughts with what this property here in downtown Nanaimo behind Port Place Center should look like in the future. They're talking 30, 40, 50 years from now. What are the guiding principles for any development that's going to take place here? You can put your 2 cents in online, www.southdowntownwaterfront.ca. Thanks for watching this edition of Go Island. We'll see you next time.
Go Island is brought to you by German Auto Import Network. Clothing supplied by Catwalk Fashions. Kate's Hair and Aesthetics provided by Maffeo Salon.